Oh, I'm guessing, I don't know if I'm hoping, I'm guessing that Astrea will be a little overeager in his attempt to get to the late game and then show off his multitasking skills and maybe be a bit surprised by what Semper can do in late game Terran versus Protoss. Let's get into game one on 2,000 atmospheres. In the top right, he is the red Protoss for Alpha X Astrea.
In the bottom left side, we are looking at the main base of our Canadian Terran player. It is Semper.
I do think this is probably the best matchup for Semper right now. I don't really have like stats on my side for that one, or even if there was stats there, like it wouldn't necessarily be reliable, right? Because he only recently went back to playing Terran. But I do feel that, first of all, his Protoss versus Terran when he was playing Protoss was pretty good. And I was amazed that his other matchups were as good as they were. But I was like, oh, PvT being good for him, well, that makes sense, because he knows like what really bothers a Terran. And now after being a very good Protoss for almost 2 years, going back and facing a Protoss with TVP, now he knows what Protoss really hates. So I feel like he'd be actually quite confident here. And that's what I saw from the qualifiers too, was a very confident Semper in Terran versus Protoss.
Wow, was it almost 2 years that he played Protoss? Was it that long?
I think so, because he came into 2020 playing Protoss, and we were like, oh, really? How long that's been? That was, I think Poison said it was like a year, and then that's a year later. So I think I'm doing my math right, but I am a bit hazy on it all.
I mean, to be fair, you've been casting StarCraft for like 37 hours for the last few days. So, well,
that's very true.
How's the Wadi life treating you, Zombie Girl?
It's not good. I did this 6 years ago, and I was like, man, I'm so glad now I'm in the, tier 1 commentators, and I don't have to just grind out StarCraft 20 hours a day. And Wardy's just like, I never stopped. I just continue doing it, even though he's living the tier 1 caster and host life. Don't know how he does it, man.
The god tier caster, even.
I'll accept that, yeah.
It's been to be honest, it's been non-stop for the last month and a half. It really feels like with Aces ROG as well. After the season finals, you come home, you have all the qualifiers. And I do always find it fun to watch the qualifiers. So definitely feels like it's been non-stop. Semper ends up losing his Reaper immediately. That's a little bit painful. He did get the scout off on the Twilight Council, so it wasn't for nothing. But you'd still prefer to keep that Reaper alive a little bit longer if you can.
I do think this follow-up to the Engineering Bay block is a bit interesting. Astrea having to deal with the Engineering Bay block decided to just go, whatever. And then he took his third as his natural. And a very popular follow-up for the Terran after that was going into Hellions, trying to catch them off guard. But it kind of got figured out, basically. Protoss were having so much trouble against it. Instead, to go into a 3 rocks, I mean, that is just, I like that it's different and that it is going to take advantage of what is now a bit of a shorter rush distance to the base.
I almost feel that Semper hoped to go up against the Stargate, right? I wonder if we let the Shade finish up, and we do, so that does mean we're going to end up losing the Adept here for Astrea, but I still think it's smart. I think it's a good move, because he did get a bit of extra vision. Of course, Shades don't see as much as the actual Adepts do, and now Astrea got the confirmation that he is going up against 3 Rex, and that means he can start rallying his Stalkers to the other side of the map, and even before Blink is done, he can get a couple of shots off on Marines that potentially move out early on. I think that's an okay moment to lose your Adept, because I think this information he gets is a lot more valuable than keeping that Adept alive.
Absolutely. I love that decision. And that is going to be a lot of useful information. He's going to get the shield battery on the front, which he might have done regardless, just because it is so common for a Terran to try and punish the weird positioning of your probe lines, basically. But now he knows exactly what he's up against and even what timing. An interesting thing about it is that it is one of those scouts, well, most scouts are, I suppose, where Semper also knows that he knows, and thus might not push the issue as much. But when you go for a 3 rocks, it's not as simple as just saying, oh, I can't surprise the guy. I need to go back home. Like, you do have to try and find some damage. And even if that means getting a couple of these Stalkers, if Astrea missed micros, I mean, that's still something. But then Semper, he might just start losing Marines. And too many to really warrant this push out.
Yep, I mean the stalker count is quite high already. We're looking at 7 stalkers. It's a bit annoying for Astrea that one of his stalkers is on the left side of his army, so that stalker was not joining in the fun. And he did take a lot of damage on a couple of these stalkers, but I guess that's what shield batteries are for. Semper throws down a scan and realizes that this is probably not something he should run into. I like what he's doing here though, waiting on the high ground. Astrea's got no vision. We could get a stim. Oh, I wish he was a bit closer towards the top of that ramp and then stim forward immediately. I actually think Semper would have been able to grab 2 or 3 stalkers even.
Possibly, yeah, but Semper is trying to play, I guess, a very patient and wise game, so he's not going to take that big risk, because once you stim and you still only get 1 stalker, then you've injured yourself, they're going to chase you down. Basically, that first stim is super important, so only use it when you really know it's going to work out, or you really need to. So this might have been a more necessity stim, as that was good target fire from Astrea to take down the Marauder.
I wonder where he's going to run. Yeah, he's going to run towards the left side. I think that's smart, because running this army into the natural, by the time you arrive there, you're going to be forced to stim again. If the stalkers blink forward, basically everything gets one-shotted. We do have a little squad of bio units on the right side finding a bit of success. 1 stalker got picked off. So we have picked off a grand total of 3 stalkers. That's decent, but not necessarily good enough, because Astrea has obviously been quite far ahead economically in this game. He's mining a solid 800 resources more per minute at this point. And that's going to be a little problematic for Semper a minute or 2 from here on out.
When I say I've been impressed by Semper's late game, I really do mean it. So I am kind of okay with how this is all gone for Semper, because it did put him a bit more in the driver's seat. He does get to, without complications, without having to deal with something that Astrea plans, get to mid-game and probably late game as well. I mean, the next problem for Semper, I would say, is if Astrea goes forward with 2 Colossus or 3 Colossus and starts bullying him. Like, if he can't get pressure done to Astrea, then yeah, absolutely, we're talking about Astrea being in the lead. But at least Semper gets to this point with a good number of units, finally getting the medevacs, can try and apply that pressure, and get to the late game, as I said, without too much else to worry about on his side of the map.
17 workers though, and the first Colossus out, 1 Immortal in the mix. I think this is a bit problematic, but maybe Semper can get a little victory. If Astrea messes up with the Stalkers on the left side, that's not going to happen. We're heading into Widow Mines now. That'd be great if Astrea didn't have any Colossus out, but since the first one is already out, and the second one is even about to pop, it's never bad, I guess, to go Widow Mines, but I also have a hard time believing they're really going to make the difference here.
Oh, I don't think so. But they are going to complicate things. You know, you're trying to chase after an army that you think was missplit, and then you run into Widow Mines. Like that can be some victories for Semper, as he does try to pull Astrea apart. This would have been a better engagement if the army wasn't already stimmed. So the fact that it was kind of a double sim there makes it a lot more awkward, a lot more okay for the Stalkers to go mono-a-model with this, even as their charge lots weren't quite charge ready. And this multitasking has turned out a bit disastrous, in fact. The fact that he took both engagements and lost them both pretty one-sidedly now opens up the floodgates. Astrea could go across the map and probably even win this game.
Yep, there is a second robotics facility being warped in, but that warp prism is in production, and 1 Immortal, 3 Colossus against no Vikings. This is going to be incredibly difficult for Semper to deal with. If we had a couple bunkers, maybe even a missile turret, just anything to be annoying by time would be nice. I mean, the first Vikings are on the way, but Semper is actually going to miss his army. He's going to see 1 Colossus here, and Astrea is going to be like, oh, I did not expect to find your army here. So at least this Colossus is going to get picked up, but will this army of Semper ever be able to make it home? That's a bigger question.
Yeah, it was a bit of a retarget there from Semper to try and hit the ball of Stalkers that have blinked forward, and he's trying to make the best out of a pretty poor situation. But eventually the Stalkers are going to all chase this down. This is buying a lot more time. Yeah. If he had just let Astrea come across the map, then he's tucked into his own base, having his own SimCity used against him. But now Semper is giving him some time to build up that Viking count, to rebuild the Marauder count, and even did a bit of damage. Finding that Colossus made the trade of units more worth it.
A couple of Zealots are on top of the Marauders in the bottom side. 1 more Marauder does get picked off. I do think that was best case scenario for Semper. Like you said, now we've got 2 Vikings out, 2 extra Vikings are on the way. Maybe a few Widow Mines here. That Warp Prism is all the way on the left side. There are no missile turrets or a sensor tower in the main base. So a couple Zealots in the main is going to be very, very annoying for Semper to deal with. And then obviously he still needs to worry about the pretty big Protoss army that's ready to walk into his natural.
only 4 Vikings and no more on the way. So it's not very good. The Marauder count's not bad, but it's currently just all over the place, dealing with the Zealots and a DT in the main base. Nice. The big Protoss army with the Colossus taking care of the Woodamines at the front, and Semper just doesn't have enough units to deal with everything at once.
Yeah, very cool little move there by Astrea, summoning a couple of hallucinated phoenixes to soak up these Widowmine shots. I said a couple Zealots in the main. It turned out to be 10 plus. Semper did kind of hold, but I think that's mostly because Astrea just decided not to push the issue. I really don't think he was in any danger of losing his 2 Colossus, the Sentries, and the Immortal, but gave a lot of respect to the remaining units of Semper, so I guess this game will go on for a little while longer.
Probably threw away 1 or 2 armies in the past, trying to get over eagerly into the natural. Then the SCDs all get pulled from all directions. You didn't realize there's 5 Marauders at the 3rd base that come in behind your Colossus. I think we've seen enough of those that I imagine Astrea was having some flashbacks, but this is still his game no matter what he chose to do. And it gets even more of his game because he's on 4 bases. He has upgrades finishing. He's got Disruptors now out in play. Semper still has to play a really perfect game to try and come back.
Yeah, I like the Dark Templars running into the natural here. Mistletoe a little bit late. The scan is going to take care of all 4 of them, so that's kind of nice, but it does open the doors in the main. Zealots and DTs into the main base, a big army of Stalkers, Disruptors, and Colossus in the 3rd base of Semper. Disruptors getting a bit ahead of the party, but it doesn't matter. Semper realizes that he just doesn't have enough here, GG. It really did feel that the game-winning move for Astrea was that very first step, letting that Shade finish up, realizing that it's 3 Rex and not a factory follow-up. It just made the rest of the game so much simpler for you.
Yeah, absolutely. He kind of guaranteed that he wouldn't take any damage to the 3 Rex itself, and then once you don't take damage from it, it really is in the Protoss's hands. So, I mean, Semper tried to do what he could to make it worth it. He tried taking battles when he thought it would be worth it, but that started it, and then I think the 2 double drops on either side of the map not working cemented it. Then it was 100% Astrea. He had to make any big slip-ups that some other Protosses might have, and I was able to carry it through. Towards the end, I think Semper showed what I was talking about at the very least, like he can control these mid to late game situations. It's just that he was already in a poor situation. He was already missing 20, 30 supply he would have had otherwise, so it was the best way to destroy someone who was behind is just to make them split, because they can't split as well as you.
Kudos to Astrea as well for playing as economic as he did in the early game. I think it's somewhat natural as a Protoss to panic a little bit when you see that it's 3 Rex and you're like, all right, I gotta respect this because I don't want to make, one little mistake with my Stalkers and then suddenly I don't have enough units to deal with bio that gets on top of my probes. But he just very comfortably kept on building probes, created a 17 worker advantage for himself, and did a great job in keeping the bio at bay and never letting it get close to his probes. So well done.
Yeah, exactly. Because I do think that Semper was sharking around for a U-thermal-esque move of just, suddenly 10 Marines in your natural killed 15 probes, and we're back to even. It sucks to be the Protoss. But Astrea never let him get it. So now as we head into game 2, I feel like Semper kind of threw out his clever build, and it didn't work. His 3 Rex was found out too easily, too quickly. And we might see him try and do the macro build, because we are looking at this guy as the underdog. Well, second SCs are out of the way. So not the macro build, the cheese build in the top left, it is Semper. Or an NG block, to be fair.
In the bottom right side, we are looking at the main base of the American Protoss, playing from San Diego. It is Astrea.
This could just be the engineer bay block again. Okay, no, it is going to be the barracks. There you go. 1, though. Just 1.
Yeah. Okay, Astrea maybe has something evil up his sleeves as well. We'll see where he goes with this. Taking a look at his main base, he does not have any gases yet. Warps in his first gas now. Is that just going to be a gateway?
I think so. I think proxy, second gate. I feel like I've had, not a lot of games going that direction, but more so recently than last season.
Actually, very curious how this plays out against the proxy barracks. Feels like it should be pretty good for Astrea.
Trying to think. I know that a cannon rush works really well against the proxy barracks, but yeah, I feel like I don't see too many of this exact lineup, because both options are still fairly rare right now, I would say. But yeah, especially where Semper put the barracks is also a bit surprising. but it's going to get into the main. Eventually, his SCV is not getting into the main. It's going for the engineering bay block, which I feel like maybe if he had been able to immediately scout with the proxy SCV, I'd be okay with Semper's position, but he's going to get the last possible scout on what Astrea is doing, and I think that's worse for Semper than it is for Astrea.
Yeah, I love that Astrea is also chrono boosting the gateway that's out on the map, and that means that this adept is going to show up at the ramp of Semper real quick. And that's probably going to prevent that factory from finishing up for a split second. At this point, Semper may actually be worried about Void Rays or something like that, but it's going to be even worse than Void Rays. At least that factory is 85% done, so I guess he is going to be able to finish it up immediately. And maybe it's not that bad. Maybe Widowmine into Cyclone or just Cyclone immediately. I kind of like both options.
Yeah, I'm okay with the Widowmine coming out first. Semper did pull an SCV off to the side, specifically to see if it was proxies being put down for a Stargate. So he knows it's not that, so that he's figured out it's a proxy gateway. It's not the Stargate. Now his Reaper's even looking for the proxy gateway. So they probably won't be able to get the pylon anytime soon, but if they can distract a lot of these adepts. Oh, and even distract Astrea so that he doesn't micro out of the way fast enough. He just lost an adept to the Widowmine.
Yeah, no, this doesn't look that good for Astrea because it's going to be hard for him to expand as well because that eBay is fully finished up in the natural, so it's going to be a 4-gate robo. This is something I see Zest sometimes do in the opening rounds of the American Weekly, where it's like 5 a.m. in Korea, and he's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm sure that you're very excited to play against me, but I'm Zest, and I'm just not excited to play against you. And then he 4-gate robos people. I don't know if Astrea can pull this off against Semper, though. I'm actually a little bit concerned for our 2-0 prediction.
I am as well, because like this is the only time I feel like I can put in my own little experience as being a bona fide cheeser at this point. I think that a decent amount of Protoss do what Astrea does, surprisingly enough, but they follow up once they see that you proxied them, you one-based them with an attempted Warp Prism attack, and as such, I think Semper is expecting it. That's the only reason I am going to my own experience. I think Semper would actually be thinking, okay, this is going to be the follow-up. He also gets the scout, so that is absolutely perfect. But I think he was already mentally preparing for it. So that gives me a lot of hope that Semper is going to be fine.
Yep, great scout there by Semper. Of course, that may seem a little bit lucky because it's a random Reaper, but that's just what you get if you're active with units out on the map. Semper is clearly looking for anything that he can work with, and if you're looking for stuff, then sometimes you will find it, and he saw that Warp Prism there. Now, the Widowmine's obviously not necessarily the greatest thing to have. Astrea could pull off a little bit of Warp Prism Micro too. We don't have a tank, we don't have a Cyclone, so this is definitely not a guaranteed hold. Good job there by Astrea. There's another Widowmine, and that one does get a shot off. This is still quite a few Protoss units though, Zombie Grub.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised that Semper didn't use his Viking as an air Viking from the get-go. Like, there are complications because you're running over a bunch of Stalkers being warped in, but you usually get 2-3 pot shots before the elevator gets to be in effect, right? And that would have meant that this Warp Prism, well, it does die, and the Cyclone barely lives as well to be repaired up, but so many SCVs have already gone down. I don't know if Semper has held this well enough. There's more SCVs. There's still 4 Stalkers one-shotting finally down to a 2-shot, and the recall is only going to save one of these Stalkers. So where does that really put the game?
Yeah, that's a good question. If that second command center was already in Orbital, I'd be like, you know what? I still won't hate it for Semper because he's got the better units out. It's not like Astrea's going to have a Twilight Council anytime soon. Uh-oh, you don't want to lose your Cyclone though. This could actually be very painful. And now even the Marines are going to be in a very dicey spot. The Banshee takes a lot of shots, gets picked up as well. Astrea goes for the tank, and Astrea will get the tank. And if you get the tank, you're going to get the Marines still. Semper a little bit over-eager there with the very early move out to take out that proxy.
Right. I think it was just straight up too early, but on top of that, it was pretty disjointed and everything was together. I think that did just take away his chances, and he agrees. Astrea does get the 2-0. I'm not sure he was expecting